Hey there, friends. David Paulides, Canadian Missing Project. This is Huck. She's the executive producer. She's been out running around. We had a warm day today. It was about, you're a good girl. It's about 63, 64 outside. No clouds. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. No. So, got a good segment for you today. We're going to talk about it. And Huck is going to try to stymie her snoring. I don't read things very much, but this was on Twitter. And this couple wrote this about their dog, Uno. Uno, our faithful shadow, once a bounding storm of fur and might. Uno ruled our days, our hearts, our night. A German shepherd, noble, strong, and true, a friend, a guardian, a soul we knew. Through years of laughter, tears, and play, he watched our children grow each day. A steady presence, warm and near, his silent love erased our fear. We clung to him, his neck a shore, when waves of grief would crash and roar. No words, no fixes, just his gaze, a quiet balm on stormy days. Vacations came, we'd roam afar, but Uno held a steadfast star. I'll be here, his eyes would say. A promise. A promise kept till this dark day. Now he still lies, a king deposed, his mighty frame by time enclosed. A shift of eyes, a fleeting spark, greet us through the growing dark. Our friend, our kin, our shield, our pride. The kids grew up with him beside. The weekend comes to a bitter end, to lose our ever loyal friend. Oh no. How we'll miss your grace, your soulful eyes, your steadfast face. Though bodies fade, love never dies. You'll guard us still in memory's skies. It's a picture of Uno in Idaho. Friends, people have sent me a lot of emails over the years about dogs. Why do you want to get a dog? Well, one thing I'll tell you right now. See that dog right there? I'll be sitting in that chair talking to you, and she'll be just staring at me. And yeah, it's special to have someone care about you intimately, which is why we get married, have kids, share that bond. But when that's not available, Huck's a pretty good second. I've had a lot of dogs over the years, and I can't think of anything bad to say about any of them. And maybe that's God's grace of keeping those bad memories aside. When Huck was young, she was crate trained. So at night she'd go into her crate. Well, there were a couple of mornings where, when we got her, she had worms really bad. The lady the ranch we bought her from said that she'd been dewormed, but she hadn't been. And when we brought her home and were feeding her, one morning we woke up and there was just diarrhea everywhere in her crate, and she was just a mess. So I told Angie at the time, I said, hey, I'll just pick her up. I'm just going right to the shower with her, because we can't let her walk around and be like that. And when I took her to the shower, she sat there, looked into my eyes like, thank you for cleaning me up. And she, to this day, she loves taking a bath, taking a shower. I really can't explain it. Huck knows right now, it's just her and I. And like right now, she's staring at me, right? That little poem was very well done. And I know we talk a lot about mental health here. And trust me when I tell you that Huck's helped me through some horrible days. And if I can only be that much of a gift to her, then I've done my job, because she's returned that 1,000-fold to me. So for the people out there that don't understand dogs, I'm not trying to explain it. They're a lot of work, especially when they're young. And every breed is different. Everyone has their idiosyncrasies. And trust me, Pyrenees have big ones. They're super, super smart, but they can be super, super stubborn. And they have a mind like an elephant. They won't forget. So, the way you train them, the way you treat them, you gotta do it right. Okay, let's get going on the story today. One story. One of the most unusual stories I've ever heard anywhere in the world. This happened in China. And it happened last year in May. And it happened to 4 men. Men's name was Yang Men. Their names deserve to be known. Yang Men, Zhang Jinbang, Zhang Yu, and Lu Yu. And they were geologists for the Kunming Natural Resources Comprehensive Survey Center of the Chinese Geological Survey. That's interesting, because we have the U.S. Geological Survey. So does China has their own too. All were geologists, and all had prior military service. Why is that important? Because part of being in the military, being resilient, learning how to live in the wild, learning how to live in very bad circumstances. These men were young, 25 to 32 years old, working in a place called Yunnan Province. Yunnan Province. So, here's Hanoi, right here. And this is the small little town in Yunnan Province that they were working out of. So this is the border, Vietnam, China. So they were very close to the Vietnamese border. Get it? Now this is the town that I just showed you on the map. And the town sits on the Red River. And they were working in this area of the mountains out in here where there is nothing for miles. Nothing for miles. Now, the four had worked together for the Geological Survey. And they'd done 25 surveys in these mountains in the previous year. So, on November 13th at 9 a.m., the four geologists entered the Ailao, A-I-L-A-O mountains. And they were doing what was called a forestry resources survey from Zhenyuan County of Pur City in the Yunnan province. Here's the problem. China isn't a very transparent country, if you don't know. They will try to lie about circumstances. They will lie about locations. And the location of this incident, where the men were at, while I researched it for a week, I found 5 different locations, 6 different answers, 7 different circumstances. It was bizarre. But I'm going to give you the best answers that I could find. It was said that these men were highly trained, spent much of their time in the backcountry doing these studies, and they carried compasses, food, and other supplies. Now, they were geologists, but they were doing forestry resource surveys. I tried to get an understanding of what that meant, and I had no idea. Forestry resources, I'm thinking about trees, grasses, bushes, water, animals. These guys were geologists. Oh well. Each of them carried what the Chinese called an RTK device. And the team also had one sat phone. Now an ATK means real-time kinematic. And it's a device which puts out your GPS location via satellite. Like a GPS transmitter. That'd be what we'd call it here. Or a spot device, which is also something that hikers carry here. As you hike along, the spot device puts out your GPS location to your significant other at home, and you could follow them on the trail as they move along. So that's what they're calling an RTK device in China. Now, the men were to enter the woods November 13th and return the next day, November 14th. Now that has changed a lot too. One person said they were coming back the next day, and one person said they were coming back the same day, one other person said they were coming back in 3 days. But one day seems probably the correct one, because the consistency was they had 38 hours worth of food with them. Now, articles stated that these woods are filled with bears and many types of poisonous snakes. Well, isn't that special? So the men entered the woods on the 13th. November 14th through the 16th, there was non-stop continuous rain in the woods. Heavy rain. I saw pictures of these woods. There weren't giant trees like you'd see sequoias or Douglas firs. These were almost look like orchard type trees, but they're wild trees. Now the Ailao Mountains are the boundary between the Yunnan and Guizhou Plateau, and it has notoriety as a national level nature preserve. Not sure what that means in China. A national level nature preserve. They said that there were no restrictions going into these areas, and people did go into the mountains, and they had people in the past disappear there. That's what one article said. Now, reports stated that contact was lost with the geologists on November 14th at 4 p.m. But they never stated how they had contact. I think what they meant to say was that the geologists were supposed to be out November 14th at 4 p.m. and they didn't come out. But they worded it kind of special and said they lost contact with them. Well, the next day, November 15th at 7:30 p.m., local emergency services notified the government that the men had not returned and there was no contact with them. They tried their sat phone and the devices that I talked to you about, the RTK, they weren't transmitting. November 16th, formal search and rescue was organized. Plans were developed. They were not 100% certain where the four were working exactly. So the government brought everybody in and divided them up into 13 different groups to go to different areas to search. They knew they had enough food to sustain themselves at least 36 hours. So they were fine, because everyone could live without food for a few days. November 17th, search and rescue operations indicated that they needed to travel over several mountains to probably get to the location where these men were at. That was their best guess. There were no roads or trails in these areas at all. Several mountains were over 8,400 feet in elevation. Not a lot if you're used to Colorado mountains. That is a lot if you're living in Kansas. Now, during this time that search and rescue was going on, it was raining heavily. And the men who were missing knew that rain may happen and they had rain gear. The rain was expected to go off and on for the next couple of days. Now, a man named Wang Heng Dong, who works at the Ayala Mountains National Native Reserve, said, quote, "Severe weather may have caused the geologists to become missing, as it lowers the level of visibility in the mountains." I'm sorry. I don't get that one. What do you mean, Dave? So GPS doesn't care about weather. I've been in thunderstorms and GPS trail guides worked. So that dog don't hunt. And if you had a sat phone should go right through those clouds. So I'm really confused by that. And they had compasses, and compasses aren't affected by bad weather. Right? So why would he say that? Another man, Lu Donglin, was a member of the local fire brigade and said that there are big temperature differences in the mountains between day and night. Of course. Every mountain has that. And then he said something that was interesting. He said sat phones don't work in the mountains. What? Sat phones don't work in the mountains? Now, that's a complete lie. I don't know who he thinks he's talking to. Now, if you're down in the bottom of a valley and you don't have a lot of coverage to the sky, maybe. But every time I was in the woods and I had a sat phone, it worked. So you see what I'm saying about they're giving out misinformation. I don't like it. Now, searchers were into the search now on the 17th, and they located knives and one raincoat, and beverages were found, but they didn't say where they found these. Then later on the next day, they said that they were found near a camping shack that the men were using, but they didn't say where the camping shack was at. They did say that there were thousands of people assisting searchers, and the government had to establish a supply depot in the mountains to facilitate feeding everybody. It's kind of a cool cool problem to have. You have that many people. Now this is an interesting one. November 18th, searchers got to find human excrement and one raincoat near the Baishui River, which feeds the Red River that I showed you about next to that city. Well, that's funny, because why would anybody dump their raincoat while it's raining like mad? That doesn't make any sense. But it tells you how good the search was, because they found the human excrement. That's good searching. November 19th, searchers got to 3,500 people, 8 helicopters, up to 10 drones, numerous canines, and unlimited support from the government. I got to tell you, 8 helicopters on the search, that's a lot of helicopters. I'm guessing that a Chinese helicopter has FLIR. I mean, they have the best technology, so I'm going to guess they did. And then government officials announced on the 19th that they found the men's sat phone in their car. What? I'm sorry. That makes no sense to me. Not saying I don't believe them, but 4 former military men working in the mountains know that that's their only way to really communicate, and they leave it in the car? I don't know about that one. November 20th, searchers now got to 8,000 people, and they focused on the area where they found that raincoat. They had 10 helicopters now, and they made an announcement that shocked everybody. The government stated that none of the men's RTK devices were ever turned on and activated. And this would have allowed the searchers and the rescuers to know exactly where they were at and where they were located. Now that is very peculiar. Why would they do that? Now, you know the number of times I've told you where during these searches and things, electronics fail? It's happened to me probably 25 times. Filming movies, being in areas that we knew were weird, and then just being out in the woods looking in an area where someone disappeared, and all of a sudden my phone goes to 0. Using my camera, battery dead. It's happened to me more times than I can explain. November 21st. So these men disappeared on the 14th. They were supposed to be out. Now, a week later, the 21st, 6:33 p.m., searchers came upon the bodies of 3 of the geologists. One report stated they were found outside of Shui-Tang province. Now, listen carefully to this one. I read about 20 different reports. A report from the min.news/en/science. I'll quote what it said. The death of the missing persons are quite strange. One of them actually had a smile on his face and his clothes were lifted up. Exactly what, word for word, quote for quote. I have no idea what lifted up means. Taken off? Lifted up? I don't know. And then they said he died with a smile on his face. First of all, if this is true, the man who released that information to the press is probably dead, because the government would never allow this to go out. Another report indicated that the area where the 3 men were found, it was believed that they were running in circles to stay warm. I have no idea how they knew this. Nothing stated about the location except they were found in Shui-Tang province in Jinping country. Now, the area around the bodies was searched that night, and they didn't find the fourth individual. November 22nd, at 8:30 in the morning, right when they start to search for the fourth person, they find him on the outside perimeter of these other three people. Essentially, all four died in the same area. The same day that this came out, the press stated that a magnetic field caused their compasses to malfunction, which probably is why they were lost. Really? Now, it's true that based on the geology on certain areas, well, these are geologists, that can't affect a compass. But it shouldn't have affected the RTK device. Days after the body was found, this is, you gotta hold on to your taters for this one. Days after the bodies were found, the coroner stated the men died of cardiogenic shock. What? I've never heard of that. They've had to look it up. Per the Cleveland Clinic, cardiogenic shock is a life-threatening condition in which your heart can't pump enough blood to meet your body's needs. The condition is most often associated by severe heart attack. So why didn't they just say they had a heart attack? Because I don't think that you're going to believe it. Why? So remember, these men had gone into the woods and done this 25 or 30 times in the previous year. The mountains in this area are pretty steep. These men are 25 to 32 years old. I think that they're probably in pretty good shape. How many men 25 to 32 have heart attacks that kill them? It's proportionally very small. And all four have a heart attack and die? I don't think so. So the government said that they arranged transportation and they carried the men out on November 24th. The team had worked in those mountains for a year with no issue. Question number 1. Why didn't any of the four men, when they realized they were in trouble, activate the RTK devices? Please tell me. I'm all ears. I want to know. Now, this is the one for you. Please pay attention. In 15,000 cases I have read and reviewed, I know of not one case where 4 military-trained, military-aged men died together in the woods. Lost. I don't know any. No, none. Understand, people do not die at the same rate. You get 4 people together, body composition, what kind of shape you're in, genetics, a lot of things play into this. You just don't all, at midnight tomorrow lay down and die. It just does not happen. And remember, they didn't say they died from hypothermia, so they didn't freeze. So if everyone lays down and dies, and you're there, are you going to say, okay, I'm going to lay down here and die too? That's not the human way. You're going to try to find your way out. I'd rather find my way out trying to find some help than laying down and knowing I'm going to die right here. Now, there was water everywhere, so water wasn't an issue. It was raining like mad. Creeks were full, water everywhere. I've told you before, and I'll say it one more time. China has a history of not telling the truth, when the truth may embarrass the government or the people working for the government. Now, these 4 men worked for the government. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Why would 4 geologists be doing a nature study? All with military backgrounds. Now, is it the military backgrounds the reason really they were in those woods all year looking for something? I don't know. Now, when I'm researching this case, I'll hold off on that for a second. Now, we realize, and I just want to hit it home for you, no electronics worked on this trip. RTK didn't work. They didn't bring their sat phone. Compasses didn't work. Remember, they said that there was some kind of magnetic interference. No electronics, no compass. There was only one mention of the person's clothes being askew. Other reports stated that each man had food left. Stop for a second. To me, that indicates that something happened that first day that they were out there, first day or the next morning, because they still have food. They were only going to be out there 36 hours. They left at 9 o'clock one morning. We're going to be back the next day about 4 or 5 or 6 in the afternoon. No mention of hypothermia. Yet they found a discarded raincoat. Massive weather issues. In fact, like I read you, that one search and rescue individual said that they're probably lost because the weather was so bad they couldn't see. The visibility was so bad. Why geologists? Remember, military trained. They specifically said that. And I'm sorry, they are all too young to all succumb to heart attacks the way this is described. Now, maybe some old fogey, 60, 70 years old, there's 4 of them, and it starts raining and they all died of a heart attack. Maybe. But 4 to die together, I don't care what age. That's odd. All to die from the same thing? That's off the charts odd. All 4 to die at the ages from 25 to 32? That's sounding off alarm bells for me. I don't believe it. Now, while I was researching this case, there was another mention of another odd case. Here's what it said. It said, this is not the only case in which Chinese people were killed by extreme weather. Well, first of all, this case I just read to you, extreme weather didn't kill these men. Heart attacks killed them. But here we go. This year in May, meaning May 2024, 21 runners died after hail, freezing rain, and high winds hit the group during a 100-kilometer cross-country mountain marathon in northwest China's Lanzhou province, May 23rd. What? 21 runners died because of hail, freezing rain, and high winds during a 100-kilometer cross-country mountain marathon in Lanzhou province, May 23rd. Where's the support for these men or women? Really? Usually these races, every mile there's a station and there's water, and there could be some emergency workers with radios, call for an evac. What are they doing in China? I don't like that at all. But I did look it up, and 21 people did die. That's pretty bizarre. Now, are they going to say all those 21 runners died of a heart attack? I don't know. I doubt it. I'm sure they died of hypothermia or something similar. Now, you guys are great. Thank you so much. You are appreciated. And I know several of you have written about mental health crises in your life. We've all had them. Somebody who says that they haven't had a mental health crisis, come on. Mental health crisis, mental health issue. When somebody really close to you dies, that all has an effect on us. When somebody you really trusted breaks that trust and leaves, that's a biggie too. And just in the last month, I've had 3 people write to me, and there were comments on the videos about how I helped them get through one of these real tough times. Well, if there's people out there going through a real tough time, I want you to understand that this place you're at right now is probably one of the safest places on the net. Why is that? Because anybody says anything derogatory about somebody here, they're gone. Anybody wants to make fun of someone having a mental health crisis or wants to make fun of you, period, they're gone. We're here to support each other. And you can call us a village, friends, whatever you want. But we need to have friends, and we need to have support. So understand, you can put anything up here, no one's going to laugh at you. You're going to have the support. And I've stated before, a couple of people have asked just lately, the best support organization that I know of is NAMI, N-A-M-I. They have online classes. They have classes that you can attend, and I want to encourage you to attend with if your child, young adult is having a mental health issue, you go. No ifs, ands, or buts, you go, and you take them. It's not an option. It will help them immensely. I've taken the class, 15 weeks, it was awesome. Best class I ever took. So, Huck's about ready to start snoring, so I better leave. And don't forget, go to Gather Up Events. Gather Up, one word, events. Look up the Caribbean Cruise. Myself, Mariah Mayor, Jeff Meldrum are going to speak on the cruise. It is going to be a blast. It's going to be in the Caribbean, November 2025. We have a really good time. And we're all accessible. You see us walking around. People come up and talk to me 100 times on that cruise. And I don't know anyone that didn't have a good time, honestly. I would tell you. So, think about it. In the meantime, be kind. If you can't find kindness where you live, then you bring it to the party. Be safe. Paulides out.